and you just feel like really low, run down all the time. Your self-esteem goes, but it's definitely a massive issue is money at the moment, or lack of money. Yeah, and everyone's on the minimum wage as well.
You find that with a lot of the people that you speak to, they're on the minimum wage. So again, that's quite interesting. Of course, we know it doesn't discriminate, and of course, money isn't everything. But of course, it's quite interesting that many of the people you talk to are just earning minimum wage and maybe would have that financial difficulty that we've discussed. And it just doubles and trebles and quadruples when you've got debts to deal with at the same time. So that's a fair point. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Money Matters podcast with myself, Jonny. This week, a bit different. We are looking at with a mental health focus because November is now well known actually as Mental Health Month. So it's an opportunity to talk to lots of different people about mental health, the nuances of mental health, and what exactly they're doing about mental health. So brilliant for me to welcome on Gav Melling, a wonderful person who sets up who fronts a wonderful organization called Men's Den, which he will be able to describe to you in a bit more detail than me. I don't want to take the limelight away from him on that front, but first of all, how are you doing, Gav? And thanks for coming on.
Good morning, Jonny. I'm good, thanks. So Men's Den operates at Open Door in Colne. We're open every Wednesday evening from 6 o'clock till 7:30. We're a non-judgmental, totally confidential group. Generally, the lads drop in. We go around the group one by one, and they each say a bit about what sort of week they've had, where they are mental health wise. We then have a discussion and a coffee, and generally we have at the end of the evening sort of check out, and sometimes we'll play pool, a few games of killer pool, but he's doing all right. We're hoping to sort of add one in Barnoldswick soon.
No, that's really good. That's really good. Quite a basic premise, and often basic premises work the best. So you have lots of people around in a room, and it is harder actually, because of course it is Men's Den, and of course that's not to detract away from the mental health of women, because of course that's a very prominent issue as well. But from your perspective, why is there such a stigma, maybe, or was a stigma around mental health with men?
Well, I know myself, I had a lot of depression in the past, and I always found it difficult opening up. Didn't want to tell my friends, bottle things up, sort of like told it's not good to be emotional, that kind of thing. So when I started, my mum told me about Men's Den originally, and at that time it was run by somebody else. And I dropped in, and generally I thought it was all right. Came back a few times, and gradually I got more confident with it, and now I sort of run it myself, really. But yeah, I think it's important for people, especially men, to chat about mental health, because a lot of us all bottle it up. Definitely.
Yeah. So when it comes to bottling it up, then, so I suppose, I don't want to assume, but I think I'm younger than you, slightly. But so I'm from a different generation and a different era, really, around the mental health idea and around bottling it up. But with my generation, there was still an element of that. But from what I understand and gather, it was a lot more severe in the 80s, in the 70s, that you didn't, if you were a man, you were a masculine man. And that meant, as you say, we don't act in a non-masculine way. And that's quite a toxic thing to think like, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It's sort of, yeah, I agree. I grew up in 1980s, really, that were like as a young lad. And then 90s as a teenager and onwards. And lads didn't talk then about issues. when they were depressed. They just kept it to themselves. I had a friend personally myself who actually took his own life. Again, he didn't open up about anything. And I just thought it is important that us lads, well, I know. There's difference between lads and girls. Is girls will chat about when they're not happy, whereas lads tend to be quiet about it. You know, sometimes they might tell their mates in pub, but
do you think that's down to that, what I was discussing though, a generational thing that in the 80s and the 70s, it was basically frowned upon to act like that. Whereas now, hopefully, as we move through the generations, that becomes less and less of a thing.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely more of an 80s kind of thing now, you know, in the past, because now we're a lot more open about mental health. Everybody's talking about mental health. There's loads of groups starting up. There's a lot more awareness of it now than there ever was before, I think, definitely.
No, yeah, that is a really big thing. It is, and every year that we go on, I hope there is some more progression on that front, because it truly is. It's a hidden killer, I suppose. Mental health, as you well know, unfortunately. And I think what is interesting, what I'd like to hear your side on, is we've obviously, hopefully, come off the back of a coronavirus pandemic, and I say hopefully because we don't know if it's going to resurface. I wouldn't like to predict what happens next month, and neither would you. But during that period, how difficult was it to keep? Well, first of all, how did Men's Den function during that period? I imagine maybe you were utilising some technology. And during that period generally, how difficult was it to keep on top of mental health?
I struggled a lot with it myself. I'm, you know, as a lot of people did during lockdown. And we did use Zoom and Teams, and especially a lot of the WhatsApp as well. We have a own private WhatsApp group, and we use that a lot. But generally, we're done on Zoom. But it's not the same, you know. I mean, now we're back in the open door again. It's a lot better to be face to face. I think it is anyway. But, and I know personally, through my own experiences, you know, I struggle with it, the lockdown, big time. Yeah, I found it hard.
What was it that you found difficult? Maybe the lack of social interaction face to face.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was working a lot at that time, so that was good. But it was like not being able to meet your friends, go for a drink, or you know, go out, just meet up in general. I think it caused a lot of mental health problems to that.
Oh, I can imagine, because people are people. We all need each other, really, even at the best of times, and certainly at the worst of times as well. It's very important to have that interaction. When it comes to Men's Den itself, you've been in charge for a time. Obviously, you didn't found it, but you are now the leader of the group. So I suppose you could pass as the founder in many ways. It's been going since May 2018. It's fairly well established now. Since you've taken charge of Men's Den, what is the best achievement you can think of from your perspective?
I've enjoyed bringing new people in to chat to the group. Like I've had Chris Kirkland down, the ex-Liverpool and England.
He's done some work with Colne Football Club, hasn't he, as well? Chris Kirkland.
That's right, yeah. He's head goalkeeping coach. So I've had him down. There was a fella who ran from Kirkwall to every Premier League away ground. He's been down. We've had an MBE fella down to speak to lads. And we've also had like social prescribers come down. We've had a man who does fishing therapy. He's come down to talk to lads about how fishing activity can help mental health, well-being. Well, we've had quite a lot actually. Yes, we've just doing a class now with with a lady called Melva about mindfulness. So that's good. Yeah, we do that as well on the Tuesday. So,
That's good. You'll have to go for Speedo Mick next. He's quite a big character, isn't he, if you've heard of him. Have you heard of Speedo Mick?
No, I don't know.
He does a lot of charity work where he runs marathons in his speedos. He's a big Everton fan, and he does a lot of this for mental health awareness and raises money for charity in that sense. He's done quite a few local news things, so maybe that's the one you should look at. I'm sure he'd probably be down to do it, and certainly Chris Kirkland as well. I think that's a really key one because Chris Kirkland, you note, ex-Liverpool, Wigan goalkeeper. If someone like that, who is a prominent footballer and quite a lot of money in his playing career, no doubt, is suffering and struggling with his own health, that's really a good thing. And we've seen, actually, not a good thing as such, but it's a good thing that you can see from the maybe level of the working classes and the people on the ground, so to speak, that actually this doesn't discriminate. This affects everyone at every level, and in many ways, you're not too separate to an England goalkeeper or a top flight goalkeeper, a professional footballer. And we're all the same. We all have the same kind of feelings, and we all suffer in the same way, I suppose.
Definitely. I thought when he came to speak to lads, we were at Cole Football Club, and I found him really good. We talked about addiction and his past troubles with his football and his with impending retirement and injuries and all. Really good. And he had a good listen to the lads, got involved with them. And I've kept in touch with him as well, which is really good. We've also worked with Lancashire Adult Learning, the Job Centre, the disability. A lady rang me from Burnley Job Centre about sending people with disabilities through, which was nice. That was good. We've worked with a lot of groups. Samaritans, we do a lot of work with them. Yeah.
Open Door, Citadel, Church on the Street.
Yeah. Church on the Street. Curry on the Street.
Yeah, we spoke to Curry on the Street. We spoke to Curry on the Street and Church on the Street. Mick Fleming and James Foy both do wonderful jobs in the local area, raising awareness and of mental health, trying to help people in really difficult situations. So it's fantastic that you're all sort of connected in some way. Lots of good Samaritans doing, really good things together as a collective. It's very good. It's very good. When it comes to the obviously from our perspective, many debt advice company, we often see a lot of people in difficult situations that maybe do struggle mentally as well. Do you think that, I don't know from your experience, is anyone, because I sort of see it two ways. There's obviously those people who have really strong mental health problems or issues, and then they go down a pathway that leads to debt. But then there's also, I suppose, those that are in debt that then get quite bad mental health issues because of the severity of the debt that they're in. So it sort of goes both ways. I don't know if you've seen any examples of that with people you've worked with. How much do you think there's a link between money troubles, debt troubles, not knowing how to pay it off, and mental health issues? Do you think they sort of are in tandem together in many ways for many people?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of people who are struggling now with money wise, especially since COVID, because more jobs have gone. It's harder to get a job now and because so many applicants. And there's a lot more food banks now, a lot more. I mean, this, like you said about James Foy, things like that wouldn't have existed a few years ago. They curry on the streets, providing curry for homeless, and we have people come to our group, who's struggling financially, definitely. Sometimes with legal fees, about seeing the children, or just generally lost their jobs, struggling a lot. Yeah.
So you would say then, particularly in light of the pandemic, that money troubles and debt is quite common across the board with people you speak to quite regularly.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's a nasty combination, really. just to bring it back a bit then, because of course this is men's mental health and we are focusing on that, but also it's important to remember as well the financial side of it, of course, given this is Money Matters. But again, just to reinforce, this is primarily aimed at mental health focus, because this is Mental Health Awareness Month, or in some people's eyes it has been labelled as that. And it's always important to raise men's mental health awareness, as we are doing now, as Gav does with his group. There's a few statistics that are quite, eye-opening now, even today, that sort of say there's still a long way to go, I think, before we are on a level playing field in terms of mental health, from the stigma of the men's point of view. If you're three times more likely to commit suicide statistically if you're a man. Men aged between 40 and 49 have the highest suicide rates in the UK. Men report lower levels of life satisfaction than women, according to the government's National Wellbeing Survey. And men are far less likely to access psychological therapies than women. Only 36% of people have taken up the NHS therapies that are available. So they are quite eye-opening statistics, really, still, even today. One or two of them I'll just ask for your thoughts on. Of course, we've talked about what the reasons why we think men maybe 3 times more likely to commit suicide when compared with women. 40 to 49, that's interesting as an age range. What do we think about that? Is that some kind of, they don't know where life's going, they're struggling for purpose? I don't know what you would think about that age range in particular.
Yeah, I mean, I more or less come under that category. I'm like 49. I think like it tends to be like that age when you sort of like struggling for a job sometimes, and you're deemed as a bit older, and then you find it hard to get an interview. There's also the fact that young people seem to be a lot more chilled out about life in general a lot of time, going college and uni and that. And I think as you get older, sometimes separation, like divorces, not being able to see children, again, debts, that's a big one. We all fall, putting like
in that situation, do you think maybe men of that age might think, actually, I need to provide for my family, or I need to be, doing, but then again, you can think that, but then I'd associate that more with younger men. I'm not sure what you think about maybe monetary problems from 40-year-old men. I'm not sure.
There is like a definite responsibility for fellas for providing, I think, to be the breadwinner. And I know personally, I've been out to work a few times, and it's a horrible experience. And you just feel like really low, run down all the time. Your self-esteem goes. But it's definitely a massive issue is money at the moment, or lack of money. Yeah. And everyone's on the minimum wage as well.
You find that with a lot of the people that you speak to, they're on the minimum wage. So again, that's quite interesting. Of course, we know it doesn't discriminate, and of course, money isn't everything. But of course, it's quite interesting that many of the people you talk to are just earning minimum wage and maybe would have that financial difficulty that we've discussed. And it just doubles and trebles and quadruples when you've got debts to deal with at the same time. So that's a fair point. And I suppose that links to the next one, really. Maybe, well, I'm not sure really. Men reporting lower levels of life satisfaction than women. I suppose it comes down to an outlook and a psychology about what is expected of the man, what is expected of the woman. Again, we're coming, I suppose, into a time where this shouldn't be that. It should just be what's expected of an individual is down to them. But I suppose, what would you put that down to? Maybe in terms of, are we still thinking back to the past in terms of what's expected of a man? Is that why a man has a lower life satisfaction than the woman? I don't know. I feel like we are quite modern, but maybe not everyone's caught up yet.
Yeah, I think over the last sort of 3 or 4 years, mental health awareness has definitely got better. We are a lot more open than we used to be now. The people share a lot of positive posts on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. There tends to be this new focus on getting, it's good to talk, to share your problems, to seek help instead of just bottling things up and just hiding away from everything. I think we definitely come full circle from when I was growing up, when it was just frowned upon to, get over it, get a grip, that kind of sort of outlook. Yeah.
Yeah, and absolutely. And the last one of those points, which I think is interesting, so I've noted this myself. People have told me about this. So 36% of people, only 36% of referrals to the NHS for mental health take up the therapy options. However, my question to you is, and I'm not sure if you can answer, but maybe you can. I'm not convinced that the current services that are available are so readily accessible, are so convenient, are so to the standard that's maybe needed. I've heard many stories about long waiting times, ridiculous long waiting times to get things done, hoops you've got to go through to get to the therapist themselves. And in some situations, I've heard people have to simply go private. And how do you go private? Well, you have to pay. And that's something that not many people, or not some people who particularly, wouldn't be in a position to do. They wouldn't be able to fund that themselves. So I don't know what your thoughts are, because of course you provide a wonderful service, but on the government-funded NHS mental health services, they are there, but are they as good and as accessible and as readily available as they might want you to think they are?
No, I don't think they are, to be honest. I know people rely on the Samaritans a lot still, and a lot of these sort of doctors do go back to, phone Samaritans, go to support groups like ours, that kind of thing, where I think that there's not enough focus on individual mental health as well. You know what I mean? Coming out to people and generally chatting with them, finding out what's the root of the problem and helping them get better. Yeah.
I suppose as well, the fact you run your group and the fact others do, the Samaritan Wonderful Charity do their group, sort of speaks loudly that actually there aren't the services that should be in place. And that's no disrespect to you and no disrespect to the Samaritans, but you do this to fill a void, to fill a gap that's not there. And it's a good job that you do, because if you weren't there and the Samaritans weren't there and other people weren't there, I think we'd probably see just how limited maybe some of these services actually are. It's really interesting as well that you say actually all it takes is a conversation and a chat often. It's so simple, yet it seems so difficult, doesn't it, at the same time?
It does. We have, we sort of have 4 or 5 regular people come, and then we always have people dropping in, new people. Some will stay for months, some will just drop in and out, come 1 week, and then you might feel a lot better the week after it, and just use us as and when. And that's a good thing as well. So we could have a group of 4 or 5 on a quiet week, and then up to 15 plus on a busy week. So it's like a different group every week, really. It varies so much, and that's what's good about it, really.
It's nice to see a lot of different personalities as well, all different kinds of people, but they all have similar problems. And it's nice that you can sort of see that, points between you, and then sort of, I suppose, lessons your own. A problem shared is a problem halved, isn't it? Well, if you're talking to one person, it quartered, third if you're talking to more, I suppose. But yeah, it certainly does help weaken or dilute the issue itself. In terms of men's then Gav, what are your main aims then going forward? I know we don't want to think, I always ask this to guests and to people that come on, and I always say you can't really plan long term now when we've just had 2 years of complete chaos, really, or nearly 2 years. But what are your thoughts then? What are your ambitions for the next few months, at least, maybe till the end of the year and just into the new year?
For sort of this year, well, personally, I hope we don't go back into any more lockdowns.
So you and me both. Yeah.
I don't like that at all.
No.
I don't think many people do, to be honest. But as a group ourselves, I just hope that we just keep getting people dropping in, sharing the anxiety issues, the depression. I hope that we carry on getting these speakers in. I mean, I've got a few lined up, and generally, I just want the group to sort of get, well, even more established and get out there more, and work with other organisations, which we do now. So that's good. That can only be a good thing. We promoted the event recently at Col Citadel. They had like a Good Neighbours Week, which was really good, really positive event. Yeah, there were lots of different groups there. So that
smashing.
Yeah, just that really, just to hopefully have people carry on dropping in every week, new people. So it's good to see new people.
New people, new groups, get bigger, I'm not going to say get better, because I think you do wonderful already, to be fair. You do some wonderful things, but we'll say get bigger, get more recognised. You already have a presence, but there's no reason why that presence can't grow and grow and grow. And with that, I wish you every success, because you do such a wonderful service and a wonderful thing, especially in a time when it's never been more important to have people like you and groups like yourselves doing what you do. So a big thank you for you to that, and to the people who've helped make Men's Den the success that it is so far. And a big thanks to everyone at the charities as well, who you work with, like James Foyt, Curry on the Street, and then we've got Mick from Church on the Street, and obviously the Samaritans. So big thanks to them for all the work that they do, of course, as well, because it really, really is important, because lots of people are struggling at this moment in time. Thanks a lot, Gav. I hope I think we had a really good discussion there, and good luck with everything in the future, my friend.
Thank you very much. Thank you, John.
That come on this channel, whether that be Money Matters or something else associated with Money Support Group. Hit the subscribe bell. Until next time, thanks for listening, stay safe, and enjoy the rest of your week.